From the very beginning, Tansy Espinal's life was unlike anyone else's. While most children learned about animals from picture books or television, Tansy lived among them, specifically among gorillas. Her parents owned and operated a wildlife rehabilitation center, a place where animals that had been injured, orphaned, or forced out of their natural habitats found safety. But the center's heart and soul revolved around gorillas. These majestic creatures, known both for their sheer power and their human-like emotions, became the center's most precious residents. The goal of the rehabilitation center was simple yet profound: to heal these gorillas, improve their quality of life, and, if possible, release them back into the wild where they truly belonged. For the staff, it was a mission of compassion. For Tansy, it was a childhood. Instead of playgrounds, she had enclosures filled with lush greenery. Instead of classmates, she had gorillas, towering, muscular animals who, despite their size and strength, showed her a gentleness that seemed almost miraculous. The staff at the center often worried about the dangers. Gorillas, after all, were wild animals. If startled, provoked, or misunderstood, their immense strength could turn them dangerous in an instant. Yet, something about Tansy put them at ease. Perhaps it was her innocence, or her lack of fear, or the fact that she had grown up among them from birth. Whatever it was, the gorillas accepted her. They didn't treat her as an outsider. Instead, they embraced her as though she was one of their own. They protected her, played with her, and sometimes even watched over her with parental care. She ate with them, sat with them, laughed with them, and even curled up beside them for naps. To see a tiny girl embraced by these powerful giants was something so rare and extraordinary that visitors and staff alike could hardly believe their eyes. But even the closest bonds must one day face change. After years of recovery and care, 10 of the gorillas were finally ready to take their next step toward freedom. The decision was made to move them to an island in the middle of a wide, flowing river. There, they could live in semi-wild conditions, practicing the survival skills they would need before being released into the vast forest. For Tansy, the news was heartbreaking. These weren't just animals to her. They were family. She had grown up with them, and yet she understood that true love sometimes meant letting go. So, with her parents and the other staff, she accompanied the gorillas to the island, staying with them for months to make sure they adjusted. Those months were magical. Tansy continued to play with the gorillas, to sit in their company, to watch as they slowly rediscovered what it meant to be wild. But all too soon, the day came when they had to leave the island and return to the forest for good. The farewell was unlike anything Tansy had ever known. The gorillas seemed to understand what was happening. They gathered together, watching her with wide, sorrowful eyes. Some of them lingered by her side, unwilling to move, as though they didn't want the moment to end. Then, slowly, almost reluctantly, they turned and began their journey into the towering forest. With heavy hearts, Tansy and her family watched them disappear among the trees. The silence that followed was deafening. It was the end of a chapter, one that Tansy knew would live in her heart forever. Years passed. The little girl who once laughed and played among gorillas was no longer a child. Tansy grew into a strong, educated young woman, devoted to the same mission her parents had dedicated their lives to. She joined the foundation, working tirelessly to continue rehabilitating and protecting gorillas for future generations. But deep inside, there was something that never left her. A longing. She often thought of the gorillas she had grown up with. She wondered where they were now, if they were safe, if they had formed families of their own. But most of all, she wondered if they would still remember her. Could a bond formed in childhood really survive years of separation? Among all the gorillas, 2 stood out in her memory: Mary and Bob. These 2 had been closest to her playmates, her protectors, her best friends. If anyone remembered her, it would be them. Finally, unable to resist the pull any longer, Tansy approached her father with an idea. She wanted to return to Gabon, where the gorillas had been released years ago. She wanted to see them again, to know once and for all if their bond had survived the test of time. Her father agreed without hesitation. Together, they planned the trip, knowing it wouldn't be easy. When they finally set foot in Gabon, the air itself felt different. The forest was wild, untamed, and alive with sounds. Birds called from high branches. Insects hummed in the heavy air. Every step they took brought them deeper into a world untouched by humans. Tansy wasn't afraid. She had grown up in the company of animals, but there was a strange unease in her heart, a nervousness she couldn't shake. It was the same feeling one might have before reuniting with a long-lost relative. Excitement mixed with fear. What if the gorillas didn't recognize her? What if time had erased their memories? But still, she believed, after hours of trekking through the dense forest, something incredible happened. They came across fresh tracks, gorilla tracks. Their hearts leapt. Following the trail with quiet anticipation, they moved forward until, at last, they stepped into a clearing. There, before them, was a group of gorillas. Tansy froze. Among them, unmistakable even after all these years, were Mary and Bob. For a moment, time stood still. The gorillas noticed the humans. At first, they stopped, watching carefully. Then, suddenly, they rushed forward. Tansy and her father remained still, resisting every instinct to run. They knew running could trigger aggression, but Tansy's heart whispered that she wasn't in danger. She trusted the bond they had once shared, and she was right. Mary and Bob didn't attack. Instead, they wrapped their massive arms around her in a warm, loving embrace. Tears streamed down Tansy's face as she hugged them back. After all these years, after all the distance and time, they had remembered her. The bond had survived. For the next few days, Tansy and her father stayed with the gorillas. Old faces appeared, greeting them kindly, though none as warmly as Mary and Bob. Each moment was a gift, a reminder of the deep, unbreakable connection between them. But eventually, it was time to say goodbye again. This time, the farewell was even harder. The gorillas clung to her, reluctant to let go. Their eyes told her everything. They didn't want her to leave, and yet, she knew she had to. Just as before, she could not stay, and they could not come with her. The wild was their home now. With tears in her eyes, she embraced them one last time before watching them disappear back into the trees. Though her heart ached, Tansy felt peace, because she knew this was not the end. She would return again, as she always did, and each time the gorillas would welcome her with the same warmth, the same love, the same recognition. This was more than just the story of a girl and some gorillas. It was proof that love can cross any boundary, time, distance, even species. Sometimes, the deepest connections we form in life are not with other people, but with animals who expect nothing from us but kindness and respect. Neither the gorillas forgot Tansy, nor did she ever forget them. Theirs was a friendship for the ages, a living reminder that sometimes the truest love comes from the hearts of creatures who simply love us as we are. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, turn on notifications, and subscribe to the channel for more incredible tales of friendship between humans and animals.